Welcome to my show. A guest here. His name is Jesse Chen. Mr. Jesse, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I'm excited.
And I'm so excited to have you, and I sincerely thank you for the time and the opportunity. Firstly, you are an executive coach. You also guide leaders at a turning point. Can you please, Jesse, discuss more about yourself and how you're doing currently now, Mr. Jesse?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. It's really interesting because as an executive coach, you would think that someone in my role is doing a lot of leadership strategy, a lot of like helping people learn how to run their organizations. But really, the work that I do is helping people learn how to run their own lives. So you hear about like CEOs of companies or executive directors of nonprofits, for example, and they are running organizations. And that's all important work. And it's certainly something that I can support as I meet with a client, but it's actually running their own life. So, how are your relationships at home? How's your health? How's your stress? Are you living in peace? Are there certain, goals that you have with your life? And are we making progress towards those goals? So, when I speak of a turning point and the turning point that my clients face, usually something big has happened. In my own life, it was losing my mother. This happened a few years ago after 18 years of debilitating neurodegenerative illness. And I woke up to a life that I really felt was not mine. I had done so much in my life, so much service, student governments, clubs, nonprofits. I was in the board of Civicus, which some of your audience may know, which is a large civil society organization representing UN, representing civil society organizations at the United Nations. And I did a lot of service. I did a lot of work in supporting communities. But when my mom passed, everything shifted. And I realized that life is very short. We don't have any guarantees for tomorrow. And I wanted to make sure that I could change my life. And in the process, I realized, wow, this is something that a lot of people actually need help with to change their life into the life that they want for themselves.
I'm so glad that those issues that you had, most especially losing your lovely mother, was a turning point for you to also explore more things and also understand the world better. Understanding the world better also gave you the opportunity to be more of an executive coach and also train people to get into the turning point for them to lead more well and also make them to make sure they are not, guiding their followers in the wrong way. And I sincerely appreciate and thank you for
Yes.
that. And also, with the experience you've had as an executive coach, have you written any book or do you plan to write any book in the coming future, Mr. Jesse?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I really appreciate it because the turning point opened up the inner sage, if you will, the inner artist. This is a part of me that had not really been fully expressed. And when I talk to my clients, I see it in them too. They want to be a dancer, they want to be a painter, they want to learn how to ride horses or whatever it is. They want to write a book or write poetry. And so when that turning point comes, all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I'm going to make time for my art. And I don't really need anyone to buy it. This is not about buying, it's not about being part of the market, although that may be an opportunity. It's about expression. And so for me, my first book that I wrote is called The Way of the Leader, and I actually decided to turn it into an online course. And then I actually started writing a book about a year ago at this point, actually, a little bit more, I guess, called The Boy Must Die. And that was around my journey in masculine healing of rising into the man that I wanted to be, letting go of some of the patterns that had been subconsciously controlling me for most of my life. So I really find that, a lot has opened up for me at my own turning point, and I tend to see this in others as well, as they look to do something new, like go hiking or, go exercise or go dancing. It's always something very unique for each person, but that's what we're working on is finding that thing and unlocking it so that they can live a fulfilling life.
Exactly. That is the only way we can know what we are meant to do on earth. When we know what we are
Yep.
meant to do on earth, then we see every single opportunities open for us and we'll be able to
Right.
fetch more better and also know the right thing we are meant to do at the right moment. And also the book you've written, which transcend in those perspective for other people to
Mm.
understand better and the knowledge you've gained for other people to also absorb as well, for them to be more
Mm-hmm.
better as well. And I would also like to
Mm.
just drive to the sense of ancient understanding and also tradition as well. Because in the world
Mm.
that we are in the world whereby technology is now in fast pace, and every single thing that we do now are more at the fast paced. So many people could live in the area of fast pace and achievement driven
Mm.
environment. Every single people just want to look at the achievement, what one has achieved, not even the work that has been done to even get the achievement. So what do you
Right.
think ancient traditions understand about life and leadership that modern culture may have forgotten, Mr.
Yeah,
Mr. Jesse?
that's a great question. This is a great question. I think that this is actually where we are not focusing currently today in the modern leadership discussion. A lot of it's about getting other people to do what we want them to do for us. And it's less about this sort of inner world that we've been talking about so far, and like your life architecture, what you're doing for yourself. But the ancient traditions start off, I could not name one ancient tradition, lineage, native community, indigenous community worldwide that does not have a symbiotic relationship with nature. That is the number one thing that I think is in common. And because of that, they don't see a relationship to the other, to the world, as in something to dominate, something to conquer, something to appropriate, something to extract value from. It's a symbiotic relationship. And I'm thinking about, I know that you're in Nigeria on the African continent. If we go back 100,000 years to the migration and well, first to the first humans in southern Africa, the cradle of mankind. In that time, we were in symbiotic relationship with nature. We were living with the land. This idea of living in computer screens all day, and scrolling on your phone was just, we were so far away from that. Now, migration happened. A group of people started going north in the African continent. Another group of people migrated over the seas 100,000 years ago to go settle Australia. They are known as today as the Australian Aboriginals. And so, in this process of exploring the world, there were the explorers that stayed in symbiotic relationship with nature, and then at some point, we don't know when, we lost touch with that symbiotic relationship to nature. It became about conquering, it became about extracting. And as a result of thinking about the world in that way and Mother Nature that way, we started thinking about each other in that way. And that's when leadership, I would say, can be restored and greatly amplified for when we start seeing people as soul beings, as each other, as equal humans, truly equal humans on a soul level, having the unique experience of living a life on this planet. We only got one life, versus let me go take that person over there, and if I say something just this way, I can be empathetic and get them to do something for me. It's a very nuanced difference there, but it's like the manipulation to go get others to do something for you is just, it's again coming out of this place of a lack and scarcity, and this sort of poverty mindset, as it's sometimes called, which is, I there's, so what can I do to go get more from that theft? But it can also mean like, hey, I want you to work tonight extra hours and work this weekend. Don't spend time on your health. Don't spend time with your family. Don't spend time on your personal art because I need something from you. And if I don't get it from you, then, like I'm going to disconnect you from your way of living. Because in the ancestral traditions, to your question, in the ancestral traditions, they had a symbiotic relationship with land. They were living off the land. So this idea of needing to make money and having a disconnection from other people, from soul, from nature, it just wasn't there. And I'd say that's the number one thing that when I think of the ancestral traditions, when I think of indigenous peoples in general, it's always a healthy relationship with nature and to all living beings.
There is nothing more beautiful, to be honest, nothing more beautiful than human connection. And as you said, we are
Hmm.
in the world whereby we do appreciate the screen. We do not even appreciate the connection we have within ourselves. We are only in a fast pace. Let us see what I can get out of this and let me move on. And most of our
Exactly.
ancestors during those times, they do not really think about those patterns, money, prosperity, or being
Right,
someone that
right,
is on high. And that is the
right.
beauty of what they embrace. They are living in a community, they live in a certain culture, they do understand themselves, and they do have their rules that abide by
Yes,
them during those times. Now that we are
right.
evolving in a new age, we have to also know how we can use this age and also try our best to maintain those sense of human connection and a community by caring with people that we have around us, and how we can also put
Yes.
this into a corporate boardroom. So that is why I would like
Hmm.
to ask what you think it's practically mean to bring jungle
Hmm.
lessons or elder teachings into a corporate boardroom, Mr. JC.
Yeah, thank you for that question and for weaving that together. I appreciate how you weave that together. I think that there's the one thing, if I think about my own experiences in the jungle, having spent some time, quite a bit of time in the Amazon, in the South American Amazon, I have found that the relationship, a man or a woman's relationship to fear is one of the most important relationships to explore and to really discover and figure out what am I afraid of? Because if you're thinking about this in a jungle environment, you may be afraid of the proverbial lion or tiger, or jaguar, right? But and that's because it's an apex predator. But when we're in the boardroom, there is no animal chasing you in the jungle. So if something is running late and your project is due on Friday at noon, but you're not on time, why do we fear as if a lion is attacking us in the jungle? So it's a fear response. And this fear that controls so many of us subconsciously is a very, very, very deep pattern that we see within boardrooms. And so, boardrooms, executive rooms, the bedrooms, right? We see it in many places where the pattern of being controlled by fear, when really the invitation to all leaders, man or woman, is to overcome fear, to develop courage, to take action in spite of fear. It's not becoming fearless in the sense that there is no fear. It's saying I'm aware there's a fear and I'm choosing to take action anyway. So that requires a level of presence, which means that whether you are the CEO or not, let's be very, very clear here. There's nothing to fear about anyone else in this room. Fundamentally, we are safe. And so, if an executive, again, regardless of their title, regardless of their position, if they are creating a space of safety where people can come forward and say what's on their minds without being attacked, without being judged, without being threatened, they can then get the best ideas and the deepest human connection at the same time, because people can then co-create in being free of the fear that would otherwise prevent them from saying the really unique, innovative thing that's out of the box. So I think it's the relationship to fear, and I think that that's jungle lessons, elder lessons, not allowing the fear, not allowing the past. That's another aspect of fear, not allowing the past to control us, because everything right now, brother, is right now. This now moment is the only thing that's real, is right now. So something that happened 5 years ago, 20 years ago, right? Something that happened in a previous meeting, can we actually let that go, not let it go to the ego, come back to the heart and realize we're all doing the best that we can here, right? Giving people grace that they're all learning as well, including the CEO, including the executive director, including the staff assistant, whoever, everyone's learning. And then we can look within and say, what is my responsibility in this situation? Can I accept it, change it, or reject it? And so you're in a unique situation. We never know. Like, is there something that you can do in that now moment to release and liberate the fear? Or is there something that you have to reflect on and say, how can I act differently going into the future? Or is it so toxic that maybe you need to remove yourself from it? But you can't do any of it without being present. And only in presence can you be aware of the fear of the past coming to haunt you.
You've said it all. Fear. Fear is one of the roots of hindrance. It is one of the roots whereby people will not be free to say what is in their mind. They will fear
Yes.
that one they could be demonized, or they could fear that they could be, thrown stone hard. But if we can
Yes.
create a safe environment, and as we said, we are living in a very fast-paced world. There is nothing that we say that might not get out there. But if they can have the sense of safety and they are free enough to actually leave this fear behind them and have the sense of freedom as well, it really
Yeah.
helps a lot and it helps the area. That is why the value of human connection will always continue to stand as the number one priority, most especially when
Absolutely.
people are coming together to bring out ideas that will make things move forward. The fear has to be out there, and we have to try our best to live more freely and also try our best. It is not easy, and it's always the work of the leader to make sure that does not come around fear. And that is
Yes.
why I would also
Absolutely.
like to drive to the point of inner peace, because it
Mm.
can also pursue success. When someone is pursuing success, it is something that means a lot. Success can hinder a lot. It can even hinder someone if someone is not careful to gain some sense of human connection because they are always chasing something that is up there. So, how do you think we can
Right.
reconcile ambition with presence? And do you think we can pursue success without sacrificing inner peace, Mr. Jesse?
Yeah, that is a great question. I mean, reconciling ambition and presence and peace, and all of it is in one cauldron, one connection point, because it all comes back down to, I use this phrase life architecture, right? And your life architecture comes from the values in your own heart. So the first thing to do is become clear about what those values are. And when those values are clear, then you can create tasks or initiatives or endeavors or art that then give you the expression of those values in your life. But it all depends on whether or not you've actually explored yourself, your own inner world, to clarify whether or not you have chosen to value peace and chosen to value human connection. I know it's something that you and I share for certain, but if someone is just only valuing work because that's the only thing that they were taught that they could ever value, that's the invitation. The invitation to say, okay, can I be ambitious and can I also be at peace? Can I accept what my circumstances are now? And then also say, hey, there's something new that I want and something that I want to do. And then come back to presence and being like, I can do what I can to influence this situation. And I have to let go of what I can't control. And that's why, again, cultivating that presence is so important because really what it is how do we master peace in the mind and in the body. Because when we feel at peace and the nervous system is at peace, we are the apex predators, to use one phraseology, of thinking about the world, right? What are we afraid of? So, can we be at peace with our situation? And are there things that we want to shift in our life so that we can find that peace? Because, and I would argue this is the difference between coming back to that question between ancestral leadership and modern leadership. We live in a world where most people are working to make money. There are the farmers out there and the ranchers and people who are living off the land, but most people need to work to make money. So that is the sort of the modern world, right? But the modern world doesn't always value soul. It doesn't always value your personal art, etc. So we need to understand what would bring us peace. Okay, I need to make sure that I go salsa dancing once a week. If I go salsa dancing once a week, I feel like I'm in balance, right? I'm getting a more holistic expression of myself in this world, in this plane of existence. But that leads then to the question of harmony. right? Which is how can I be in harmony? We often think of peace and harmony, especially within social justice work, especially within nonprofit work, within activist work. We think of peace as being something that happens over there, over there in the zone of conflict, in the zone of war and famine. And those are very real, but it starts inside your own heart first. What can you do to carry and embody peace? Because if you do not embody peace, the world around you may not even know what peace looks like. So, understanding how critical presence is in that moment to being like, is this my work? Is this your work? Is it her work? Whose work is this? And what can I do? Okay, I can't control this. Even in the politics, right? Politics is very big within the United States right now, for example, and around the world, but very big. Can you observe someone with a different view than you and not allow yourself to get all activated in your energy system by it? Instead, look at it and go very curiously, very humbly, what can I do differently? Is there something, some piece of information perspective that changes my mind or no? Just holding peace in that rather than succumbing. And same thing with your ambitions with your life, right? Which is, I really want that nice car. I want that material thing over there. Okay, what can I do to hold my peace while I go and I start to build that new life?
I sincerely appreciate those insights. Values plays a huge role in every single one of us life. And despite that value, as you said, living in the presence, connecting with our human sense in the presence, because that is the most important thing that we need to face because we're in the presence and we have to try our best to see how we can deal with those presents. And that is the way
Right.
we can find that inner peace, that peace that we do need, because that peace is one of the most important things that can help us to connect with the source and also live a life that we are more strong enough to actually live, as you said, live without fear along with it along the way as well. And also, I know you drive more in terms of nervous system, but I would just like you to just give us more enlightenment in that perspective. How do you think, or how do you think can nervous system regulation, how do you think it can be seen as a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience, Mr. Jesse?
Yeah, what a great question. And I just want to honor and recognize how calm your nervous system is in this conversation because it makes it safe for me. And if we take this example and we build it out for other people in their own lives, your listeners, etc., right? When we have a calm nervous system, people do not feel that they're going to be judged, they're going to be rejected, that they're going to be shamed, right? Being calm is what I call masculine leadership, right? And so I say the masculine mind and the feminine heart. All humans have both. But the job in the nervous system of the mind, the higher mind, is actually to keep the heart safe, your own first, and the hearts of other people around you. So, masculine leadership is about feeling safe, seen, heard, worthy, and loved. You cannot hold space so that your own heart or the heart of someone else feels that way if you're not at peace. And so when you talk about nervous system regulation, you're talking about being able to hold whatever the emotional content is that that other person's going through. Like I could get really excited right now. I could get really sad right now. Like, and can you hold that energy? Can you hold the entire spectrum as you observe this within yourself? Because there's going to be times, like I faced it with my mother, for example, when she passed, right? And since she's passed, it's happened a few times, right? Where, okay, the inner child, the part of me is in grief. Let me stop everything and focus on calming that part of my nervous system versus your wife or your business partner or whoever it may be who is currently under stress, currently feeling dysregulated. Can you embody that calm nervous system energy? And the truth is that many people, men and women alike, may not have ever have had a role model or an example of what a calm nervous system looks like. So when we talk about it from a bridging of the nervous system with the modern neuroscience, what we're talking about is we're talking about rising above the amygdala, rising above the reptilian brain, which has a trauma response to the past. So, in other words, what has happened is, I'll use a metaphor. You're walking down a street and at 6 years old, and you tripped off a curb. You had a big bruise on your knee, you're bleeding, right? You needed a band aid, mommy needed to kiss it, like this whole thing, right? But in this process, you said, you know what? I don't like streets with curbs. So you stopped walking down streets with curbs. Why? Because a part of you was traumatized, right? And so the brain learns fear, it learns trauma. And what we do with nervous system regulation techniques like yoga nidra, also known as non-sleep deep rest, NSDR, right, is we're actually training the nervous system to rise above the fear and to release the fear, because we know through psychosomatic theory that the body is holding on to so much of that fear. And you can think about it in terms of the animal kingdom. If you've ever seen two birds get into an argument in the lake or in the pond of water, and they flap their wings at each other, but then they go off their separate ways, and then you see them shake it out because they're releasing the energy. They
Yeah.
know inherently, they know it naturally that they need to release that
Yes.
energy. What happens is in human relationships, we don't necessarily know that we're carrying that energy. So
Yeah.
we need to self regulate. We need to be able to hold space for ourselves, let alone other people, that allows us to regulate our own nervous system. And in doing so, provide that safety that other people need in order for them to blossom truly, not only to mention for yourself to blossom truly as
Yeah.
well. I don't know if I answered your question. I
You
went
you
rambling a little bit
you
there.
definitely answered it, Mr. JC. You brought out the most important area as well. When it comes to our nervous system, we have to know how we can maintain these emotions. As you said, the brain lives with the fear, the body lives with that fear that we have, those trauma that we hold. We have to try our best to see how we can work on the nervous system and also other areas that we can use to maintain or also manage all these areas so that it won't be something that will get to us and will also change the way we live and also other perspective. As we said earlier, we are always in the presence, and those beautiful insights are one of the most important things. We have a lot of beautiful ancient time things that deals with values of human and also the value of healing as well. But our time today, we have to start to learn and also try our best to build the sense of momentum so that we can know the right paths to our way at times. And also, Mr. Jason, there
Yes.
is a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone
Mm.
or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing will be, Mr. JC?
Oh, what a great, beautiful question. I mean, I think that our, in so many ways, our ancestors are so proud of us for all of what we've evolved and achieved, things that they could never dream of. But I do think that there is a little bit of an invitation to come back to the earth, to come back to nature, and to reground, really truly reground and be, you know, feet in the dirt, hands in the soil types of relationship with the earth. And I think that if there's something that you can do in your life that's going to bring you into a more healthy symbiotic relationship with the earth, whether it's getting a plant for your house or getting a fish to take care of, or starting a garden or something. I think that there's a lot of beauty there, and for everyone on this path and listening to this show, I invite you to explore what it means to connect with the native and indigenous communities around the world who actually are holding the doors open to say, here's how we live, here's how we are going to continue to live,
Hmm.
and we invite you to see what a different way of life could actually look like, because it's very different than what we have in the modern era today, and it's a beautiful gift to receive.
Very much different, like 100%. In our time now, if we do fall sick, we know where we go to, but they have every medical, they have everything. They know how they could maintain themselves and heal themselves, which is so very much powerful. Our indigenous
Yeah.
background carries a lot of healing and a lot of things. It is due to the
Huge.
Western world, Western medicine that caused all the involvement that comes around in our
Mhm.
time currently. So exploring those areas is very, very much necessary, as in something that will really inspire us and we'll see the love out of it. And also, Mr. JC, I want to use this opportunity to thank you for the opportunity you've given
Oh,
to me today. Thank you so much, Mr. JC.
thanks. Thanks to you, and thanks to the service that you continue to provide to your listeners. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank
All
you.
right. All right, Mr. JC. Have a wonderful day, sir. Bye bye.
Okay, take care.